Welcome to a special episode of Ask Sixto. Today is Thursday. I always get the dates wrong.
Yeah.
June what?
12.
June 12th. And we have a special guest.
Right here.
Oates.
Ryan Oates. Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so Ryan is a member of Lowell Sustainability Council and someone we're excited to learn more from. We'll be asking questions about sustainability, affordable housing, and progressive taxation, and why these things are local issues, not just national ones. So it's good to have some with us, an expert. Today is not Ask Sixto, it's Ask Ryan.
So if you're here with us, make sure you say hello. Please let us know if you can hear us. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and we will answer them as we go.
Also, if you want to say hello or like wave or put an emoji, we can say hello to you live here, all right? Thank you so much. Shout out. Ryan, for those who don't know Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's your story?
Yeah, it's a big question. Well, I'll start. I'm from Ohio originally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Ohio. I actually moved to Massachusetts in 2020.
What brought you here?
So my wife now, Emma, and I, we met in college in like a small state university in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And we were both kind of applying around for grad school, and so her family was actually from Maine originally.
Okay.
And so like she didn't have super firm roots in Ohio is kind of what I would say. And so we were like, let's just apply everywhere and we'll just like figure out where we want to be. Mm-hmm. And we both got into programs for grad school in Massachusetts. So I did my master's in education. I'm a middle school teacher.
Yes,
middle school English. So I did my master's in education at UMass Amherst, and I lived in Springfield for about a year. And then she just finished up her PhD program at UMass Lowell. Yeah. I'll tell her, don't congratulate me.
Yeah, no, that's exciting.
So then basically her program was longer than mine, so.
Master's in English. English is my second language. Does my grammar drive you crazy?
Don't hate her for that, please.
No. We always say in English that language is descriptive, not prescriptive. So you should, people should talk how they talk, and we'll, as long as you're communicating, that's what matters.
Right. Right. Because there's so much more to communication.
Yeah. But so I moved out here about 4 years ago. And what was the second part of the question?
How do you engage, in what you do nowadays?
Yeah.
But originally was how you got to Lowell?
Yeah, so I've always seen myself as kind of a caregiver, like in my family, and I think that's what drew me to being a teacher. And I also really like storytelling. And like I was involved in theater when I was in high school and stuff, and so that kind of brought me to education first, and I think that kind of role of being a caregiver, and I sometimes have maybe too much empathy, and I just get to thinking about fairness a lot, the kind of core value of fairness, and a desire for, we have this concept of the American dream, right? The idea that if you work hard, you should be able to achieve your dreams, your goals. And I want there to be a world where that is a reality, where if you do everything right, those paths are open to you. And so that's, I think, kind of the core thing that really got me going. And a lot of things kind of stem from that. Like I started asking myself and asking questions like, okay, well, why is it that some people can afford education, or like that you have to have a certain amount of money to go to higher ed or whatever it is? And a lot of it kind of stems from that for me.
So you're part of Lowell Sustainability Council.
Yes.
Right? And that's where we met you.
Yeah.
When we were doing the forum.
Yeah.
Sixto was invited to speak for that.
Yeah, Ryan sent an invite to candidates in the incumbents and the candidates for Lowell City Council.
And I've been a fan since.
Yes. Yeah, your organizational skills and the way you manage yourself and how the forum was run, it was top notch, and we were very impressed, and thank you for the opportunity. You challenged us to actually get into more knowledge about sustainability.
You did.
Yes,
Because it was on our radar, but it wasn't like, I mean, it was something that we thought about, something that we talked about, but it wasn't anything that we actually studied.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the forum and you having everyone there, it actually brought it into a higher priority.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad, and that it was really special for me to be able to host that forum and to be able to. I mean, I'm just like a random guy from Ohio that's here and cares about the earth, and like to be able to talk with the people that are making decisions in the city.
Mm-hmm. No
honor.
such thing as too much empathy. Right? No
You
such
bring that
thing.
back, yeah.
Right, yeah, bringing
Yeah.
that back up. But also, how did you even? How were you able to go onto the council? How did that happen?
That's a good question. Well, so I was having that feeling, you know, of wanting to make things better, just like an energy there, and I was like trying to find somewhere to put it, and like a place where I can make it concrete, you know, like an actionable thing that can happen based on what we're trying to improve. So, I was literally just Google searching like sustainability, Lowell, Massachusetts, you know, and I just found the website, on the Lowell city website, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and emailed Catherine Moses, the sustainability director, and we like chatted. We had an interview, or not really an interview formally. It was like I was asking her questions about what it does. And, she's like, yeah, we have meetings.
You were doing what you do because you asked us a lot of questions too.
I tend to do that. Yeah. Yeah. And so she told me like, you're welcome to come, and then I went through kind of the formal process of applying to the council, because anyone can attend, just like a city council meeting, but you have to go through a process to get on the council. And so it was like, how do I get this energy that I have and direct it towards someone productive?
Right.
And I've been really lucky. The people that are there are just, they care so much, and like are very nuanced about you got to think about sustainability, but also Lowell's an environmental justice community, right? And so how do those things overlap sometimes? How do the issues around, right now there's a conversation about housing and sustainability, how do those things overlap? And it's you have to be very thoughtful, and I've been lucky to be around people that like do that.
Big picture thinkers.
Yeah.
Ryan, so some folks out there might not know what sustainability is about. Can you tell us like briefly, in summary, like what it entails and what it covers and how it impacts the community?
Yeah. Well, I guess the broad idea would be that we live in a way that we could continue doing as long as possible, as long as humans are on Earth. That we live in a way that allows the Earth to sustain itself in a way that can sustain life. So I think there's a lot of categories of that. So like one of the big threats to being able to keep life on the planet is climate change.
Yeah.
And climate change being caused by the emission of greenhouse gases by human activity. Whether that's CO2 or, I'm not like a super expert, but carbon emissions, CO2, but then a bunch of other types of greenhouse gases. And so like that, I know that's one category of it that we, as a state and as a city, are doing a lot. But then you have other stuff. You've got like toxics. So not wanting to have dangerous chemicals in the soil or in the water. You have solid waste, another thing. So like if we want to live in a way that we can sustain life forever, you don't want to, you can only have so much garbage.
Right.
You can't just keep piling it up forever. Like it's got to go somewhere, and you got to figure out how to reduce solid waste. And so there's stuff as a city we can do for that. Those are the three categories, I think.
How open is the city to listening to what the council brings forward?
As far as I know, very open.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have, the fact that everyone came to the Sustainability Summit, I thought was
really
a sign
neat.
for that. Yeah. We had, I don't know the number, but like a lot of active city councilors there willing to kind of engage and talk about things. So yeah, I think, ultimately the Sustainability Council, for clarity's sake, doesn't have power to enact anything.
Right.
Right, it's a citizen council, kind of an advisory board type thing, where we can't actually make any decisions, but we can make recommendations, and that recommendation can carry some weight. But ultimately, it's like whoever within the city is the core decision maker. Like it's on them to decide what to do, because they might know something we don't know.
Yeah. And then as a follow-up question on that about the city and how you connect with them and they're are receptive of your advices, what do you think is going well? What do you think is working towards sustainability, and what do you think the city could improve on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the city's doing a lot for sustainability. Looking back, let's see. I'm trying to remember the name of the program, but there's I think it's like the community aggregate program. But basically, there's a program where the city can buy electricity in bulk. Right? Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Okay. And a long time ago, they used that bulk buying power just to reduce the cost of energy for local people. But they started to realize that because it reduces the cost so much to buy in bulk like that, you can increase the amount of green energy, of clean energy that you're buying, and still have it cost much less than if you were buying independently. And so this, if I were to step back, the state has these goals of we're going to try to get X amount of our electricity from clean sources by, I think it's by 2050, it's supposed to be 100%, something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's this step ladder that says, okay, by 2030, you need to have this much. By 2035, it has to be this much. And, Lowell could just follow that and it would be fine. We could just say, like, we'll do the bare minimum and we'll meet the state's goals. But what the state has done, or the city has done, is they've used that aggregate buying power to say, we're actually going to add another, I forget the exact percentage, but like a little more than what we actually have to.
Yeah.
Right.
And still make it less expensive than if you're buying electricity by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. Like that's a really big deal.
Yeah. That adds up after time.
Yeah, and they have different tiers of it too. So like, because some residents, you want to make energy as affordable as possible for a lot of people in the city, and you have the option to do like just a little bit more than what the state requires, or like a lot more than what the state requires. So it allows for some flexibility for affordability.
Yes, and that is all positive. Moving in the right direction. We want to bring all positivity, but also it's an opportunity to try to get more support on things that are still not happening, that are a little behind, that can be that we can work together to actually implement them or start working. So is there one topic or one area that you think could do better?
So this is kind of in the realm of resiliency, climate resiliency. So you have stuff that like will prevent climate change, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then like it's already happening.
Yeah.
And Lowell is a lot of Lowell is considered a heat island because we don't have tree cover, you know, we don't have permeable space, we don't have like soil.
Yeah.
It's so
the density.
Yeah. And so I mean, I think we could on the one hand like improve the number of street trees that we have, and I know there was a conversation about that at the city council meeting this week. Street trees, and I'll circle back to that in a second. So that's one thing. I think parks.
Wheels are great.
Yeah. I would love to see more parks in the like closer to downtown, like. And I know that's
green parks?
Yeah, I would love, like, I think, and this is more of an equity thing, but like people should be able to access a green space in the city. Like I think it really affects first how you feel about the city.
Well, even a playground, that's something that downtown residents have been saying, that we want to try to attract more people downtown, but there really isn't much of a park or even a playground for kids. So that we get.
Yeah, and it's like a win-win, right? It's like it's good for livability of the city,
right?
And it's good for like climate resiliency too. So yeah, those are a few things I think, and I don't know if you followed things going on with the sewer system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and how, for those unfamiliar, basically when there's like a lot of rain, Lowell's sewer pretty much like overflows.
Yes. Yeah. Well, our rainwater, from what I heard, right, our sewage and our rainwater goes the same way to Duck Island, and it's too much. So then what happens is Duck Island releases waste into the Merrimack River, but I guess it's a common practice with all the towns. So it is a problem. And what I've been told also is Lowell is working on separating rainwater from sewage from going to Duck Island, but it's just super expensive.
Right. And okay, so this gets to something that I find interesting.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we have, I mean, it's literally untreated sewage just going into the river, which is like a huge problem.
Yes.
And like public health concern, there have been warnings about it.
Did you know that?
It's pretty bad.
We're not swimming in the river or fishing, so.
I'm like, I kayak over there. But anyway. Yeah, and so it gets to the question of like, who pays to fix that? Right? So we've had climate change, which has been becoming, or I guess our greenhouse gas emissions have been creating climate change. It's making the heat island effect worse.
Right.
It's making flooding worse. You know, it's challenging sewer systems like ours. And I guess the question becomes, you know, who's going to pay for all these things?
Right.
And a lot of times when it comes to sustainability, the people that are least responsible are the ones who are going to be impacted the most.
That's it.
Yeah, and so you know, we know that. I mean, if you go back, you know, Exxon, Sitco, Shell, these like oil companies have known. I mean, some of their internal researchers back in the 80s have known that their product was causing warming, you know, was causing these effects. And I think more concretely by the mid-90s, you know, like there was a world, what do you call it, climate change, I forget the exact term for it, but like there was a meeting in 95 that was the first council on climate change worldwide. And it's like we knew this was a problem, basically. And a lot of these corporations, there was a member of Exxon who was like one of their communicator, like public figureheads that was kind of caught in a call, basically saying, yeah, like we knew about science, we pushed, like we tried to prevent it from becoming mainstream, you know, and pushing disinformation. And so I guess my thought is, and a lot of people that I work with is, the people who have known and have tried to prevent us from taking action, who have profited billions of dollars, should be the ones to pay for the effects of it, especially during the time when we knew.
Yeah.
So there's a bill in the State House that I'm really excited about. It's the campaign's called Make Polluters Pay. Yeah, but it's the official title is like an act to create a climate super fund, I think is the title of it, an act to create a climate super fund. And basically what it says is the very biggest corporations, not all of the oil companies, but like just like the top 3 or 4, I think it is, something like that, have to pay to the state of would have to pay to the state of Massachusetts X amount, I forget the exact amount, for climate resiliency.
Okay.
And so that funding would then could be channeled to Lowell to fix the sewer or to plant more street trees or what whatever it is. So that's something I've been thinking, and it's an opinion of mine that if and a lot of our state reps actually have co-sponsored it, which is really exciting.
That is good.
And that could make sure that the people of Lowell who are not responsible for climate change don't end up fitting the bill. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's very, very, very interesting. And part of the process is city getting involved, the state, the government, they doing their part. But what would you say will be things that residents and business owners could do to actually contribute to this mission of being sustainable, like the responsibility? So what can you advise some of our viewers on how they can contribute to that? Whether they are just a resident or they own businesses in here that might be producing emissions and.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm of two minds about it. One is like, I see it primarily as a systemic problem and not as, like I'm not blaming people like me who have to drive to work like I have to. There's no other way to get to where I work other than driving a car, unless I biked like 20 miles a day or something. But anyway, so that's one mind. So on the one hand, I feel like it's more of a systemic problem. On the other hand, there are things we can do, right? So, and in a lot of cases, doing them helps you remember how important it is. So the city has composting, and that's huge for the solid waste part. Like, if we can divert a lot of these things from going into like waste, we can turn them into soil and we can use them for farming and things. And so I know the city has a compost system that you can opt into, especially if you're like a homeowner or if you're in like 1 or 2 family housing. They will actually come pick it up, like the same way they do with any other
trash.
Yeah, any trash.
Yeah, I did try that once, and it was those. Do you do it at home? It's the 5-gallon buckets, right?
Oh wow.
So if you're cooking, and you have kids running around and a dog that you have to take care of, like trying to take off the top of the 5-gallon bucket, it's just not. So it was hard to do.
Yeah.
So maybe if we can find better barrels,
right,
it would be easier for me, and I would be all up for it again.
Yeah, I'd love to look into that.
Reinvent like probably the design to make it easier for families to access and move it around. So yeah, we always can improve, right?
Yeah.
Make things better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like we tried for a while, but I'm in an apartment building, and we first of all don't even have like recycling, like we don't recycle in my apartment. But I personally had my little compost thing, and as a person who lived in an apartment, I had to like drive it to a drop-off location. So I would be like the middle of January, you know, and it's like the ground's icy, and I'm like across from the LTLC, like trying to like dump my compost into a little trash can. So yeah, I agree. Like it's
a little tough.
It's tough, and I think we can improve it.
And that's for the residents. Like one example of how they can contribute to say sustainability.
Yeah.
Would you consider before we go to businesses that lighting, maybe bulbs and things like that? Do you also cover that as part of sustainability?
Yeah, it's
Is
funny,
that important?
as like a resident or as a renter, like I haven't thought about those things in a while. But yeah, no, I mean, it's my
the
perspective.
Comes out, Ryan.
Like, but more efficient, right? Bulbs, more efficient
appliances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a way to consume less and create that might create less emissions, no?
Yeah, I feel like as we go though, and as technology gets better, it automatically does that anyways.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, most of the equipment are coming, or the appliances coming with energy savers and efficiency in terms of energy. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
speak. So sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I just say how impressed I am with you and knowing all the laws that are in place? Because this is the second one that you talked about. You talked about one in the comments with Lorena.
Oh yeah.
Remember that one in the comments? So that was great. So when do you have time to study all these laws in place?
That's a good question, because I am a teacher, and I have a lot of grading to do. Still, let me do that. But I don't know. Like I said, I really am motivated by like fairness, and I just have a lot of energy, and I don't know what else to do, and like it's you know there's I feel like I'm always kind of digging for what's the most important issue, you know, what's gonna help people, because like I'm just very uncomfortable with injustice. Yeah.
So you make the time. You just basically make the time.
Yeah.
But also, another question for you, because you're vocal about your thoughts and about what you study and what you come up with in so many different ways, right? And a lot of us stay quiet because we do not want to have fights.
Confrontation.
Yeah. How do you handle yourself with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm always, I forget the exact phrase, but something to the effect of, like I have strong and deep values.
Yeah.
And I try and remain open to new information and open to other perspectives.
Right.
And open, and this is something I appreciate about you, to nuance, right? To how do we find middle ground here where we both agree, right? And I really appreciate that about you. And so I listen for that. Like I listen for what do we agree on, or a lot of times where is this coming from? Like what, what fear or value is underlying the thing that you're saying.
Right.
And I try and empathize with that.
Right. So Ryan has a YouTube channel that I love. So if you're here, make sure you say hello, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. So Ryan has this way of explaining complicated situations and then showing facts, right? So your shows, I really appreciate them, because if with how busy everything is now, when something new pops up, I know that if I'm going to go and watch your show, it's going to be based on facts. Yeah.
And very educational.
Yeah.
Good quality. It's a podcast, so he sounds like a pro in
Totally a
he's
professional.
very professional. Great product, and it's an asset for the community, for everyone out there. It's online. How do we access to that to your podcast?
Thanks. Yeah. So it's on YouTube.
Okay.
So
He's
just like
blushing.
it's just Ryan Oates on YouTube.
Ryan Oates on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then started a TikTok a while ago. I haven't been doing much on TikTok recently, but it's also just Ryan. I think it might be Ryan E. Oates on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just search my name.
Do you want to jump
Ryan
to
Oates.
sustainable housing?
Yeah. Let's talk
Sustainable
housing.
affordable.
Affordable.
Affordable
We can talk about that too.
Yeah. So we are here, everyone, with Ryan Oates from the Lowell Sustainability Council, who is going over different topics. We already went through one of them, which is the sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to be going into affordable housing, and the last topic is progressive taxation. So if you have any questions during the live, please type it in the comments, say hi, we'll say hi back to you through here. So, but let's keep on going with Ryan Oates, and then Thao, you have a question about affordable housing?
No, I just want to know what your take on affordable housing is, because I know housing is you're passionate about it.
I care about it.
You care. I mean, the housing situation now really is tough. Just in general, you even hear it, and it's not even tough just for the younger generation. It's just can't find affordable housing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think about that term affordable housing in two ways. One being there's like a legal definition, which is like you have to be at like I think it's 80% of the local median income or something like that. So it's as a legal definition, it's like a certain population can get subsidized housing, right? Affordable housing.
Right.
But then I also think about market rate. You know, like I say, I'm a renter. I've watched my rent go up every year for the last few years, significantly.
Right.
And so I think, from what I've read, my understanding is that we have a housing supply problem across every type of housing. A shortage, that is.
Mm-hmm.
No, too little housing. We have a shortage of housing. Especially for market rate, what they call like the missing middle. I don't know if you've heard that term. Middle, like, so you have single family homes, right? And then you have like condos, and you have like apartments, and you have two family like duplexes, quadplexes, all these things in the middle that average middle class family wants to live in. I want to live in something like be able to own a home and build equity and have generational wealth.
Right.
Like I would love to be able to do that.
Right.
But in that area, there's just not enough of it.
Right.
Statewide, and not even just in Lowell. I think that's important to say that there's a statewide shortage of that housing. There's a statewide shortage also of that legal definition of affordable housing. And then there's this other tier even below that, which is like supportive housing for if you're thinking about how do we actually address homelessness, right? People who have become homeless, people who are unhoused. One of the, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
That's okay.
But,
we're following.
Yeah, but that there's this certain subset called supportive housing. Have you heard of this term?
Not supportive housing. No.
Yeah. It's basically, if you've heard of the housing first model, it's the idea that the question about how do you, once a person has become homeless, how do you make sure they become housed and stay housed long term?
Right.
And, historically some people are like, well, the primary issue is a mental health issue, the primary issue is addiction, and I think those are very real, and
Right.
that's part of it.
Right.
However, it's like nearly impossible to address an addiction, to address a mental health issue, if you don't have like a safe place to live. And so the idea of supportive housing is there's highly subsidized housing
Right.
that a person can have their own place where they can lock the door behind them, you know. And then while they're there, they have access to addiction-related services, mental health-related services, and it's been shown to be like much more effective. Denmark and Finland are the only two countries in Europe with a declining homelessness rate, and they're the only two that have adopted the housing first approach, supportive housing. Yeah. So that's my view. That's very important for that particular subset, right?
Right.
But then you've got all the questions about like how do you prevent homelessness in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And affordable housing is huge, right? If there's, it's kind of like a game of musical chairs, right? If there's only so many spots, someone's not going to have a home.
Right.
I was looking at the housing production plan, and they found that, which is the NIMCOG, the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, created this plan, which was like very inclusive. The planning process, I think, the city manager said it had like 63 focus groups or something like that, something crazy. Like they really talked to people in the area, and but they also did some research on where the housing shortage is the worst. And they said that it was the affordable housing stock. And they said we had 3,000 fewer units than there were people eligible for it. And so you have this wait list of, the average is 4 years in the state of Massachusetts to get into affordable housing. So you have a bunch of people who are paying market rate, who are making like not enough money to pay for that.
That's it.
Yeah. And so it's very easy to, some emergency happens, you don't have the emergency fund, and a family can become unhoused like that. So I think it's really important.
It's pretty crazy. The average rate of a home now is what, 600,000 in Lowell, 500,000, 600,000. What the median income is under 50,000.
Yeah.
For one person, right?
Yeah.
So I think personally that we need to take actions to expand the supply, to have more. And there's 2 ways you could do that. Well, I guess there's really nuance, but like, if you're talking about market rate housing, for example, you basically have to expand zoning for multiple family housing, or just duplexes or whatever it is, somewhere. And I know there's a big question in the city about like, we have a much higher rate of rental housing than anyone in the region.
Right.
And that's true. And like, I think we do need a citywide approach to getting more single family housing, if I may. Yeah. This is really niche, but I was looking at the statewide housing production plan. There's a statewide committee that the governor has created that focuses on unlocking housing production. And their idea is that there's this thing called Chapter 40R, which is basically what's called inclusionary zoning. So it says, every municipality has to have some amount of affordable housing.
Right.
And I think that's the right 40R. But anyway, they had to have a certain amount of affordable housing.
Okay.
And right now, if a large apartment complex is put in, if they include let's say they have 100 units, 10 of them are affordable, subsidized affordable housing. The way it works right now, according to this Chapter 40R, that municipality now has 100 affordable housing units. It counts all the market rate in there. So it says, oh, you have 100 units now, so you don't have to do any more. And so there's a push from this statewide thing to say, well, no, you only have 10. Like, you only have 10 affordable units. And so if we were to kind of take this this way that we measure subsidized housing around the state and say, you know, we actually are only going to count the ones that are subsidized, that could make everyone else up their game, have more affordable housing, so the pressure's not just on Lowell.
Right.
You know, so that's a huge thing that I think we need statewide pressure ultimately to make all these other communities do it, and like no one wants to.
Yeah. Did you look that up on a random Tuesday?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
So are you talking about surrounding towns not willing to do it?
I mean, you heard of the term NIMBYism?
No.
NIMBYism means not in my backyard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a phenomenon everywhere, I think. And in some ways I think it's logical. Like, the cost of a home, if your wealth is in your home, and you only have so much wealth in your life, right? And you're worried about a multifamily housing unit coming in that could possibly decrease the cost of your home,
right?
The neighborhood is changing, yada yada, right?
Yeah.
So like, I get that, and I think that's why it's so hard to pass these things at a local level. In my opinion.
Now, I have another question, but now that you're talking about that has to do with zoning, and sometimes the zoning has been in effect for many years for certain neighborhoods, because maybe for the same reason, not in my backyard, or it's going to affect the dynamics of the neighborhood, like, you know, with traffic, with cars, with and also bringing the prices of their investments down. So and I understand that part. So when you're talking about statewide, like, you know, pressure to make it happen, does it have to be change the zoning citywide, or can it be reviewed in some areas, or some lands that are open, or what's your thought on that?
That's a good question. Well, I think a good concrete example is the MBTA zoning law. I don't know if you heard about the MBTA communities.
Yes.
Because it basically was that. So it's a statewide thing, and they say, okay, if you're like along the path of one of the commuter rails, you need to have some multifamily zoning. And I don't know the exact amount, and it wasn't like the whole place has to be that, but like you need some. And this got a lot of pushback from all those local communities. I wrote a letter to the editor, to the Lowell Sun, about Tewksbury. Was it Tewksbury or Tewksbury? It was one of the T's in the area. And because their planning board said, like, we're not going to do it. You know? And yeah, so it gets to that idea of like, not in my backyard. And it's fraught, right? Like, anytime the state is telling a locality you have to do something, if you don't want to be told what to do, you know, like, I don't want to be told what to do either. But I think that is a much more fair situation than Lowell, having all renters. And yeah, if that makes sense, it's more fair when we share that across.
So the other question that I have is, like, typically at the city council you hear all the back and forth about affordable housing, and then market rent units versus, you know, affordable units, right? So there is a disproportion sometimes. There's we have to go one way or the other. In your research, in your experience, what you've seen about the needs of local, let's talk about being more local right now. In Lowell, what is your perception, or for what you have researched? Do you think, what is the percentage of affordable versus market rent that we need, or if we will need to do one more than the other, if we have already enough affordable housing, and then we need more market rent so we can get more people with disposable income, which is the other part that we want to like keep moving the economy. New projects are coming into town, new professionals. So what is your take on that in terms of percentage? Let's talk about percentage wise, and where you stand with that.
And you could ask him questions too.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying. So there's a couple extremes on this. I mean, we're, again, like I said, we have a shortage in all, like market rate and affordable. We have a shortage in both. And in the conversation I'm hearing in the city, there's kind of two extremes. There's one extreme that says, and I don't think anyone is explicitly saying this, but this could be an extreme.
Right.
We need multifamily zoning everywhere, you know, which I don't, I don't think that's true. But, and then on the other hand, you say, we're not going to build anything until the people around us start doing it. We're not going to build any affordable housing or market rate missing middle housing until someone else does. So those are the extremes that I operate in. And I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I think, and I don't know the specific percentages, that's kind of why I'm not saying them, but I'm somewhere in the middle where I think we, phrase it this way, lost the plot in my head.
Bring it back.
Yeah. Okay. Primarily, the rest of the state needs to pull its weight.
Yeah.
For both of these things, affordable housing and market rate missing middle. But Lowell still has a housing problem too.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think we need to do some of both. And I wouldn't abdicate the responsibility that the city has just because other people are doing slightly less than we are, if that makes sense. So, I think we need both. And the affordable housing, part of that is dependent on how much state funding you can get, because that funding typically comes from the state. And market rate housing, like I don't see them in competition with each other. I see it as like we can do both.
Now, I see where you're coming from. Now, market rate housing, especially as we onboard new professionals to the city now with the courthouse here, now with the link program happening, with all the projects that are happening and bringing so many professionals to this area and trying to retain graduates from UMass Lowell once they graduate, right? So definitely we'll need more market rate housing, right? To be able, now, do you think we supposedly need it? Let's say it this way. Let me try to explain myself. Now, do we have? Is Lowell has enough attractions, enough services to keep these people living directly in Lowell? Do we have the resources? Are we doing good with those resources to actually engage people to say there's a lot to like about Lowell, and I want to stay here and I want to live here as instead of in a more worthy town in surrounding areas?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Are we ready for that?
I think that's the thing that breaks my heart, because you see a lot of my peers who get married, have kids, and they're just like, boom, we're out of Lowell. And that's where we're having a hard time with finding people with young families who want to bring their families up in Lowell.
Well, here I might talk about schools.
Oh, okay.
Can I talk about schools?
Oh my gosh, yes, talk about
yeah,
schools.
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
thank you.
'cause I'm a middle school teacher.
Yes.
And I taught in Lawrence, at Lawrence High for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another gateway city, kind of sister city to Lowell. And I now teach in Lexington, which I was actually just talking with some of my students about this today, based on a book we were reading.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'll start with Lowell, which is that Lowell has less funding per student than the average
Right.
district.
Mm-hmm.
And it has far less than a lot of the wealthiest districts, like Lexington, where I teach.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, Lowell has a much higher percentage of high need students, whether that's students who are from low income families, whether that's students who speak a language other than English as their first language, right? And, necessarily there are certain services that those kids need, like ESL teachers, different levels of social workers, etc. There's a higher level of need in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this bizarre kind of inequality that the places with the highest need actually have less funding.
Mm-hmm.
And the places with, they still need things, like kids still need support. But like the least level of like high needs groups have the most funding.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacts, like I was talking about with your social mobility, right? The American dream, like your access to education impacts your future in so many ways.
Yeah.
And so, and I can't blame the city of Lowell that much here, because ultimately, like I said, the amount of families who are making very low incomes, the way that city and a lot of states do this, but the way that our education system is funded is through local property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And the local properties in Lexington are very valuable. Like the median cost of a home is like $1 million.
Right.
And that's not the case here, right? And so there's this inherent inequality in that system that allows these communities to have a lot more funding available. And so then the state steps in and says, well, we'll supplement that, right? And there was the Student Opportunity Act passed a couple of years ago that made that system more equitable than it was. Like it used to be worse. But I personally think that the city of Lowell should be getting more funding from the state.
You see, I appreciate your response, and that's where I was coming from. And you touch upon something that is very important to many families, and it's like the education of the kids. And we have opportunities, room for improvement, as to be ready to bring these professionals and key professionals in the city who wants to live here, and that needs to be backed by services that they need, or they expect to provide higher for education, better services for their kids. So that's one of the reasons why people can move from one place to the other. When they are able to have disposable income, it's like, okay, let me make sure that my kids are going to a good school or going here and there. So that was where I thank you for your answer, because it has a lot to do with what I was where I was coming from, So that's a heavy reason, right?
But then what do we do now? How can we help the families that are here?
Right.
Yes, we need to improve it for the families that are here, and to attract those that are coming because of working in the city of Lowell. So is that the room for improvement, and where we need to work together to make it better, right? So
I was thinking about, can I talk about how we fund it?
Yes.
Like where do we get
Talk
that?
about whatever you want. It's Ask Ryan.
Are you going now to the next topic of taxation?
Is that okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
So we've been talking to Ryan Oates, member of the Lowell Sustainability Council here. And topics that we cover so far are sustainability, affordable housing, but then we are connecting the dots here, and we're going now to the last topic of this today episode, and it is about progressive taxation, because the questions that we made has something to do with the next topic. So Ryan, go for it.
Yeah, because we talk about what we can provide to people in Lowell, how we can make it an attractive place for people to move, where there's services, there are good roads, there all these things, and the question again comes, like, who's going to pay for that? And with the basically, given the population of Lowell, any increase in local taxes is going to be very regressive, meaning that it will disproportionately impact low-income families,
right.
Middle-class families. It's going to disproportionately impact them, and that's not fair. And so, a concept that I'm really excited about is the idea of progressive taxation, where those who have, I guess, the wealthiest among us pay a larger percentage in taxes. And given my worldviews, you don't often get really good success stories, but there's a success story in Massachusetts a couple years ago, which is the Fair Share Amendment. I don't know if you all followed that at all. The millionaire's tax is
Yes, the
often
millionaire's
called,
tax.
where basically, and this was on the ballot a lot, I'm sure people are familiar with it, there was this issue on the ballot saying, okay, we have a current tax system. We're going to add to that. If you make $1 million in 1 year, that first $1 million, we're not going to touch it. Anything after that, we're going to add a 4% surtax. So you can make your first $1 million, and that will be subject to whatever the regular taxes are. And then after that, there's a 4% tax. And they projected, I forget the exact projections of how much that was going to raise, but it vastly surpassed how much they expected. I'm pretty sure in 2024, there was a surplus of $1 billion, because $1 billion more came in than what they thought they would get. It was like $2 billion, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like, think about how we can provide essential services. How we can fund education. Oh, that's the other thing. It was directly, the way it was written, that money went directly to two things: transportation and education, right? So, and I've seen with my own eyes, like, the things that have come from that. So, like, I actually wrote a few down. My mom's calling me, but we'll talk to her later.
Well, you can say hi to Mom on live.
Say hi. He's alive.
Yeah. She's probably like, I see you on Facebook. So, like, I know when you're, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're going door to door, one of the things people talk about is potholes. I don't know if this is your experience. Yeah. But a really exciting thing about the Fair Share Amendment, I was looking at where the state government decided to spend that money. They had this this way to help cities fix their roads. And Lowell got $700,000 additional dollars to help fix our roads, just from, like, that tax.
From that tax. Okay.
Yeah, to fix our potholes, etc.
Okay.
We also got, so there were, in education, there was, there were a ton of different things, but one that I was excited about was preschool. And Superintendent Skinner has talked about one of their goals is universal preschool in the district. And they awarded to Lowell, so there were 21 different districts that got funding from this for preschool. And Lowell actually got the most of any. So we got $964,000, which is almost $1 million for preschool, just from passing this one tax. And so, like, that makes me excited. Like, we can actually get kids educated. We can actually fix the potholes.
Right.
And people still got to keep the first $1 million that they made. There were other fixed, things related to buses being able to go more frequently. I wasn't able to get specifics on that, but like, that's the kind of thing that gets me excited about how we actually get the services. In a way that's fair to low, residents.
I am gonna say though that that's amazing, the money coming in, but then also leads to other different problems, right? Because then if you're driving to certain parts of the city, some are amazing and others you cannot get through without dodging potholes. So we'll have to look at the underlying issue with what's going on with what's happening with the city when that money comes in.
It's a good question. So how do we, and that becomes a citywide thing, right?
That's
The
a
city
city
needs
thing.
to decide how to distribute that.
Right.
How to distribute, for example, plowing, plowing streets, like
Right.
choosing which streets to plow, in
Right.
what order, etc.
Right.
It's a good question.
So, in terms of the progressive taxation, how you explain how it's looking for Lowell, because already we started benefiting from that, right? And then and it can affect services like school, public safety, and infrastructure. So that's a very good examples on it. Yes. So today we have been talking to Ryan Oates. We have to keep saying Ryan Oates from Lowell Sustainability Council here with us. So it's been a pleasure. And if we still have a couple minutes. If you are viewing live, you can ask questions. We want to give. Take the time. Okay.
No, before we go though, I want to make sure that you are able to talk about everything that you wanted to talk about. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight?
Just like that.
Man, that's nice of you.
Yeah.
I've been rambling a lot.
Awesome,
Thank you for your patience.
Well, you know what though? It's you rarely see people putting in the time and the effort into learning, and then you not only do that, you do that and then you help spread the word. So it's much appreciated.
You are an asset for our city and for the residents.
100%.
So we learn from you, and then you do it so in such a nice way, So and it's easy to understand. No push, not bringing anyone down. Like
You're not condescending in any way.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you do your push for the things that you find that are the right things for the community, and it's great to see in a young man like you. So, yeah, we're very pleased to have you here.
Thank you both for having me and for wanting to have this kind of collaborative approach to talking about how we build a better city.
That's it.
It's really exciting.
That's what you need though. You need to. So your specialization is definitely not where our specializations are. Well, we however you English will say it. It's different.
Yeah, and it's all about collaboration and learning from one another.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not an expert in sustainability, but we have you now in our community, for example, in that area, when a topic for a decision that we need to make at the city of Lowell, at the local level, we need to engage professionals like you, people who are involved with their eyes, antennas up, open, and with good intentions for the city, so to weigh in on some of your input. So that's what we want to, what I'm all about is about collaboration, unity, listening to all the different sectors and not leaving anyone behind. So making sure that the decisions are made, for the best interest of our residents.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see things way differently than we see things, right?
Yeah.
So we do appreciate. Yeah. Back to whatever you would like to highlight, please share.
No,
Sure.
And I think that's important, right? Like that we can, we might have a different view on like a particular issue, but like we can talk about it,
Right.
and understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have an open conversation about it and be able to take in different points of views.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So take the opportunity. You were gonna cover something that we didn't touch upon?
No.
Oh, wow.
My mind is empty now.
Okay. Oh, great. That's great.
That
great.
was really good information that you gave us, though. So we'll put in your links to YouTube on there so that people can find your channel.
Cool.
And then also, a lot of times people watch this after and they'll add in questions after. You've done it. You've done it before. So then
we'll follow up after the break.
Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe. Oh, in YouTube, right? Like and subscribe on YouTube.
That's right.
Please follow us here on Sixto for Lowell on Facebook.
Yes. And our next episode coming up is going to be without me. We're going to have a special Spanish version of Ask Sixto, and with one of my favorite people. Actually, two of my favorite people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Should we say?
Is it keep it a surprise?
Yeah.
We should keep it a surprise.
Huh? Keep it a surprise?
We can't. I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah, we'll keep it a surprise. Well, it won't be such a surprise, but we'll let you know the date, and then we'll see the name.
Yes,
say the
full
name.
Spanish episode.
Yeah, en español, mi gente, vamos a hacerlo en español. The next one is in Spanish. Español.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of Ask Ryan. And
Thank you.
this will be available on, I think Facebook takes down lives in about 30 days, but then we're going to put it on YouTube so that it'll be on the website, on Sixto's website, so then you'll be able to watch it forever.
Yeah. And then you can promote it and go back and ask questions and update things.
Yep.
This thing,
And then we'll put Ryan's YouTube on there so you can ask him questions whenever you want.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank
Okay.
you so much for coming over to Ask Sixto, but today was Ask Ryan, and it's an honor to have you here, and we'll see you around. Thank you for everything that you are doing to improve the life of our city residents.
I'm sorry we didn't have any questions live.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fun when it happens.
Yeah, you can
but-
send it after. Thank you everyone for watching.
Bye.